I grew up kind of in the sort of 1% in India, having easy access to period products. But when I joined the state basketball team, even if we had pads, there was nowhere to dispose of them. And imagine you're like an athlete, you're going from tournament to tournament and you're carrying soiled pads around. And it's like the most shameful experience ever.
Do you think that if men menstruated, we'd still be having this conversation?
If men menstruated, there would be tampons, pads, cups, and period underwear in every single bathroom stall, and they would be free forever, and there would be free menstrual leave, and they would be, shouting about it from the rooftops, I can assure you.
Welcome to At Work With. I'm your host, Anna Merchant. My guest today has a CV that makes parents brag at dinner parties. Cambridge, Accenture, Harvard. And then she gave it all up to go village to village in rural India with a product most people are too embarrassed to say out loud. A menstrual cup. A small reusable device that replaces 2,500 disposable pads for a woman over a lifetime. It lasts 10 years and it costs less than a weekly shop. 1.6 billion women globally cannot afford safe period care. In India alone, that costs the economy $87 billion a year. Here in the UK, 2.8 million people are currently in period poverty, a number that has nearly doubled in a single year. She founded Asan Cup at 26, built a team across 2 countries, and created a product that gives women back an average of 2 working days every single period. And more importantly, access to safe and high quality period care. This is Ira Guha. Hi Ira, welcome to At Work With.
Hi, Anna. Thank you for having me.
I'm really happy we made this work. So, Ira, I'm going to start from the beginning and I want to start from Bangalore. So, I want you to take me back to Bangalore and like your early days. What kind of household did you grow up in?
Yeah, so I grew up in Bangalore in South India, which is a large city, I think probably larger than London in terms of population. So it's a big metro, it's bustling. It's known for startups and tech. So it's a very kind of up and coming, exciting city. And I had quite an unusual childhood for an Indian, I'd say, because I came from a very unusual family. My mum was actually the breadwinner in my family, and she was an entrepreneur herself. She started and grew India's first leading brand design agency.
Amazing.
So she was, hard at work, hustling, and I kind of got to watch that as a very, very young girl, and that had a huge influence on me. And my dad was a historian and public intellectual. So, our dinner table conversations were about politics and culture. So it was looking back, it was unusual. It was very cool. And it definitely, shaped me in many different ways.
Well, that was going to be my next question. So your mum, obviously, brilliant powerhouse, built a business. When I was reading up about you, I was like, my God, like the pressure. And your dad, is a biographer, intellectual, and he's got lots of books on Amazon, which I was very interested. I think I'm going to order a couple of them. How was that for you? I think, what did watching them both teach you about what life could look like? Because it wasn't a very atypical South Asian family.
Yeah, very unusual. But, the thing with my parents is that they were kind of working to get to where they were step by step. So when I was very young, they weren't, well known or successful yet.
Yeah.
They were really just working very hard.
Yeah.
And I think what I learned from their example was 2 things. The first is do what you love. And the second is work hard at it.
Yeah.
And eventually it'll pay off.
Yeah. And you talk about, in some of your previous interviews, about, you played basketball for your state team. And you talk about traveling across India. Can you talk to me about how difficult that was when you were on your periods? Because I think that's a good start of where this story about Asan Cup stems from, right? From almost your lived experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, Bangalore is still an elite city, and I grew up kind of in the sort of 1% in India, having easy access to period products, going to a good school, never having to miss school on periods. But when I joined the state basketball team, I was with people from all different backgrounds, and I had to travel across the country. And it was a little bit of a shock to me, right? Because I was going to places like Chhattisgarh, West Bengal, states that people like me didn't usually travel to, staying in rural areas. And the number one problem was, even if we had pads, there was nowhere to dispose of them. And imagine you're like an athlete, you're going from tournament to tournament and you're carrying soiled pads around. And it's like the most shameful experience ever. So I think that was kind of my first, I didn't think about it consciously, but looking back, it was my first experience of period poverty, in that traveling around with my teammates and I didn't have anywhere to safely dispose of pads, and it was unhygienic and embarrassing.
And so how would that look like on a normal kind of travel? So you've had your periods, you've got tons of obviously pads in your bag.
You have to kind of have this awful plastic bag where you carry around soiled pads until you find a safe way to dispose of them. And to be honest, like, that is the reality for girls at school in most parts of India, right? If they don't have a dustbin at school, they have to carry soiled pads home, and usually they have to burn or incinerate it themselves. So it's not just, is it, uncomfortable for yourself, it's a health hazard. It releases toxic fumes, we all talk about the environmental impact of period products. Like in the UK, we throw away 2 billion tampons a year, but this is not just macro, it's very micro. It's the personal experience of like carrying home a soiled
shame
pad.
of almost,
Yeah.
And I think especially around at that time as well, like, I don't think it was discussed as much. I would say, and when I say at that time, we're not that old, but maybe 15, 20 years ago, it wasn't so openly discussed, especially in a place like India as well. I think it's very much more open now.
To be honest, it still isn't today.
Yeah. Does it depend where you are, or just in general? It depends which area of India you are.
Yeah, I mean, obviously period taboos are very different in different regions. But honestly, I think what I've learned working in the period health space is the taboos are so universal. Like in the UK, it's a taboo. Maybe in London, people speak about it a little bit differently from, I don't know, a different city. But that taboo of wanting to hide being on your period, wanting to hide period products, wanting to not talk about it, it exists everywhere.
Yeah. Also, when you're trying to, at work, I would have it a lot of the time, especially when I was working in manufacturing with all men, and I'd be the only woman. If I had to go to the bathroom, I'd be like taking, my pad and hiding it.
Oh my God,
pocket.
The number of times I've had a tampon in my
sleeve. Yeah, like anywhere I could just hide it so that, and it was just because that was just the norm. You just don't talk about it because it's so embarrassing. And it shouldn't be, because it's just life. Like, it's biology.
It's like, would you be embarrassed to carry a pack of tissues around because you had to blow your nose? No. I mean...
So, Ira, you said something which I found quite fascinating. You said that your mum was the breadwinner at that time. What was that dynamic like?
It was really weird because it was the opposite of all my classmates at school.
Yeah.
So it was quite hard to process, because when I went to school, everyone had like a working dad and then a mum who maybe did work or maybe didn't work, but definitely had taken the backseat to raise the family. And I think I was one of the only kids in my year with a working mum, and definitely the only kid with mum as the breadwinner. Yeah. So it was always a little bit strange, but I really thought of it as very cool.
Yeah.
Also because, I mean, my mum is incredible in that she was the breadwinner, but she was still a mum in every single way. Like, she still was home most evenings. She was present. Yeah. She supported us. She was honestly one of those super women who did everything at work and everything at home. And I don't quite know how.
I think about it now. We're like, oh my God, just about go to work.
Yeah.
I think that would have been such a wonderful example for you and your brother, though, right? To see that so early on in that environment. And what was it like in a community sense for your mum more than anything else?
I think
Did she ever get any pushback?
Yeah, I think it was quite hard for my mum, because obviously there were certain things that she maybe didn't show up at, like some parent-teacher meetings. It tended to be my dad who would go along, which was maybe a bit strange. And I'm sure she got, comments, but she was just the kind of person to bulldoze her way through and not really think about it.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So Ira, as we come out of, your time of Bangalore, and then we can move into your education. So if I can read this out, right? So you have left Bangalore, you got a first-class politics degree at Cambridge. Then you went into a digital consulting role at Accenture in London, and then a fintech startup in Africa, master's in public policy at Harvard. So you were on a very clear track, right? Cambridge, Accenture, Harvard. Was there ever a moment, or what was that moment where you're like, something's missing?
Oh, it was actually probably the first day of work at Accenture.
Really?
Yeah, literally went to this big glossy, corporate building.
Yeah.
Got my laptop, and it was probably the first day where I was thinking, what have I done?
Really?
Like, I don't.
Usually graduates are like, oh my God, look at this big building and look at all of this, fancy corporate stuff.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I had just graduated and I just wanted to be in London and have some money and be with my friends and my boyfriend. And I wasn't this job had facilitated all of that.
Yeah.
But in terms of the actual work I was doing, being at the age of 21, a consultant to a big bank or a big phone company, trying to advise them on their digital strategy, from the beginning, I knew that it wasn't something I felt at all passionate about. So it very quickly became into this routine. Like you go there, get your work done as quickly as possible, almost game the system, do what you need to do. And then I think in those 2 years that I was working in consulting, I read more novels than I've read in my entire life.
Really?
Yeah, I was reading on the tube. I was, under my kind of desk at work reading. I was just trying to find interests outside of work. So I knew very quickly that it wasn't my life's work.
Yeah. And why did you want to then go into public policy?
So I think, some people are born just with their passion, knowing what it is they want to do. Like my husband is a math geek and, he's just happy with numbers. And I used to, at the time we were young and we were dating and I was quite jealous of him because he just knew he wanted to do this numbers thing all day. And I think, well, I don't know what I want to do.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, if I don't know what I want to do, then maybe further study is right for me because I've always been academic and it's a way to explore. So I did some research into the different kind of master's options available, and I found this master's in public policy in the US at Harvard that really was very broad. And I knew I was passionate about social impact. I did my undergrad in politics, but it was the kind of master's that allowed you to pick and choose and learn and do different courses. And I just thought this would be a good space for me to figure out what's next.
What's next? And then, we'll come to what's next. So around about that time, you went home to Bangalore for Christmas, of course, and you've been living, this London life and the corporate life. It's quite fun in your early 20s, I have to say. So you were home visiting your parents, and this is where the story of Mary comes in. So I'd love for you to just take us back to that Christmas. What was the story of Mary and how did that kickstart this journey with Asan?
Yeah, sure. So I was home 2017 Christmas visiting my parents. And at the time, there had actually been this huge push from the government of India, from nonprofits to really promote sanitary pads as a solution to period poverty, right? So let's get pads to everyone wherever they are so they all have access to period products. And we all obviously thought that this was a great thing. There was even a Bollywood movie called Padman, literally made about a man who goes from village to village with a pad machine. So, it was like pad mania.
Yeah.
And then Mary was a cook working in my mom's house at the time with my mom and dad, and she had stopped coming to work. And my mom, asked me to see what was wrong, and she had really bad rashes from these pads. And I asked her to show me the pads, and they were honestly like this thick. They were like diapers, really uncomfortable, poor quality materials. Like we discussed at the start, like nowhere to dispose of them as well, maybe in her home environment. And so she was really struggling with her period. And at the time in the UK, I was using a period cup. It's, super easy to use, very good for like sporty people. So I had started using it quite young. And I just showed her my cup because there were no cups in India. And I said, would you be interested in trying something like this? And she was like, yeah, for sure. So I bought her one and she just took to it immediately. Like she could do all of her tasks at work. She just needed that one cup. It was reusable. And then she actually asked me, oh, can you bring me back some more for my nieces, for my sister? And then when I started traveling home from London, every trip I would buy like 10 period cups and just hand them out, to women in my community, to the gardeners, like domestic workers, whoever just needed a good solution. And it just literally spread organically, like me handing out these cups.
And I know we said this before when we spoke, what I'm so shocked about is that these women took to it so quickly. It's like, this isn't just a period pad. This is something you're inserting in your body, and they were happy to just do it.
Yeah. So I think, we get this question all the time, right? Like, how do rural women or low-income women take to cups so quickly?
Yeah.
It's honestly because the solutions they have are so bad. So if you saw the pad that she was using, it's not the kind of pad that you have access to. It was thick, it was uncomfortable, it was probably quite expensive for her. So instead of wearing a pad every 4 hours and changing, she's trying to make a pad last for 12 hours, which means, it disintegrates. It's just awful. So if you think about the kind of solutions they have, some of them use cloth rags, which they have to scrub for hours to clean. So when you show them an innovation that's going to, the difference in their lives, it's literally like you can't work on your period, you cannot leave the house on your period versus you're mobile, you can go where
Yeah.
you want, you can do what you want. And honestly, these women are really like independent minded and clever, and they make the right decision for their own bodies, whether they're educated or literate or not.
Yeah.
So that's why they take to it so quickly.
Yeah.
I think it also really matters that someone they trust tells them about it. It's not like an advert on TV. Like in this case, you know, Mary knew me really well. She had been working in my mom's house. Like that's how she trusted me when I gave it to her.
I mean, that's an interesting, I guess, spin is that, you know, she was working for you guys. So did you ever think there was the element of like, oh, because you're her almost boss and you're like, try this, that she's tried it? Or it was more so that, okay, actually, I trust this individual?
I think she probably just trusted me. You know, I didn't tell her to use it. She just showed me the issue she was having. It was like, she told me, oh, I've got this horrible problem. And I was like, hey, this is what I use. Are you interested?
And it was almost like you're already using it. So it's not something different. And so you said that obviously you gave it to Mary, you gave it to her sisters and gardeners and other domestic workers. Most people would have done that and they just moved on and gone back to their corporate life. What made you kind of stay on that topic to be like, hey, this is a real problem and maybe this is something I could solve?
I think part of it was that, just like you asked me, like, how did they take to it so quickly? I think I was quite surprised. I was like, oh, wow, all of these women are using cups. Like, even back in the UK, my friends don't use cups, but these women are adapting to it so quickly. And that was kind of at the back of my mind. And then I had quit my job in consulting and gone to the US to do my social impact masters. And it was in my finance class that my finance professor was like, make a business model, literally as homework. And I was like, okay, I have to make a business model. And then suddenly I was like, well, I've given out like 50 period cups. You know, I find this quite interesting. I just made like a back of the envelope model for a period cup business in India, tackling period poverty.
Oh my God.
And then my finance professor, who was a really wonderful man named Carl Byers, he happened to be the CFO of Athena Health, which is one of the US's biggest healthcare companies. And he looked at the business model and was like, oh my God, this could be real. You know, this looks like a really great model for a business. And he actually encouraged me to, you know, make a new product, get some funding, you know, team up with an engineer. He was the one who was like, hey, go do something about this. It was the classic American mentality. Like, I hate to say it, but I think if I had done that model in the UK, it would have never become into a real business. But it was that American mentality of like, oh my God, like, don't sit on it, do something.
And so what was that initial journey like? So you've gone to Harvard, you've done like a designer's homework. So from that to the point where you got your first prototype, what was that journey like?
So it happened really quickly. So because I had been giving out period cups for years, and as a user myself, I had collected so much feedback from women, you know? And one of the major issues in the design of period cups is that they can be quite tricky to insert and remove. They have these little sticks at the end that can be quite hard to take out. So I already had a whole bunch of ideas for how a period cup could be made better. So I literally printed out this A4 advert and stuck it on the design and engineering school, and it was like looking for designer for period cup project. And then this wonderful engineer from Ecuador, who was a woman herself, saw the advert and responded to me saying, I'll do this for you.
Oh, nice.
And then the two of us had all of these late nights at the Harvard Innovation Lab. And the amazing thing about building a product at a university like Harvard is that all of the infrastructure is there for free. So you have access to this innovation lab that has 3D printers, that has modeling software, that has lawyers, patent attorneys, people to advise you. So it was like this very in-depth 3 or 4 months where Daniela, the engineer, and I would like literally go all night to the iLab, ideate, print things out, and on the go kind of make prototypes.
Yeah. Oh, it's very, very interesting. And then you also, so when you had your first prototype, you roped in your friends to try, right? What was that conversation like?
Yeah,
like,
so
hey,
I mean,
can you please put this in your body?
So to be honest, I wanted to immediately start working with women in rural India. And I did find some, through a nonprofit, I found some women to try the cups. But I wasn't getting in-depth feedback, especially because periods are taboo, and the kind of feedback I needed was so detailed, like you know, the ins and outs of like inserting it into your body and leaks and comfort. And I realized that actually, you know, the only people who are going to give me this level of feedback are probably my close friends. So I basically just reached out to all my girlfriends and I was like, please try this. It's good. And it was amazing because they shared such detailed feedback with me, and they actually became my first advocates.
That's amazing. And then based on that feedback, obviously you did more iterations.
Yeah, we did 4 rounds of iterations. So the Asan Cup has, you know, the ring looked different, the structure was different, the shape was different. We really took all of that feedback on board. We consulted gynecologists. And then it was the 4th version where we were like, okay, we've nailed the design.
For market. It's ready for market. And your original plan was to sell the cup at cost to low-income women, right? Because originally it was for women that, you know, wouldn't really be able to afford. And it's more like a social enterprise model. When you went and did the field research, you realized that actually they couldn't still afford it. So what was that kind of shift like? Because you already obviously had a business model, you're ready to go to market. So talk me through that time.
I mean, I guess we didn't really I didn't really know what I was doing. I just knew I had a product, and I knew I wanted to get it in the hands of women who needed it the most. But then after Harvard, I moved to Bangalore and started working with a nonprofit in rural Karnataka, handing these out. And what I learned is that everybody wanted to use them. Nobody could afford them. As you say, even if we sell it at cost, it's not affordable. But then because I had roped so many friends into my user trials, they had shared with me, the design of this is better than, you know, the other period cups we've tried, and we'd love to buy it from you. So that's when I realized maybe we could have a cross subsidy where we can sell to higher income women and then give it for free to lower income women. So that's how we launched initially.
That's amazing. And it was more like it runs on a buy one, donate one.
That's model. How we started. So we started as a buy one, donate one, kind of like a Tom's Shoes model. But then very quickly, I also learned that was not having enough social impact because, for example, if you sell to 1,000 women here in the UK in January, you can only donate 1,000 cups for free. And period poverty impacts 1 billion women globally. So you're just not going to meet that need with a buy one, donate one. So you have to have, you know, if you want to scale and you want to impact as many lives as possible, buy one, donate one is not going to be enough. That said, we were really lucky because that initial community we worked with in South India in this region called Kanakapura, they had amazing reception to the cups, and these women were so vocal that they started talking about it openly in the regional newspaper. They would come on TV and talk about it, and it was actually like spreading like wildfire in those villages. And that actually attracted some funders. So I had people reach out to me, for example, from my Harvard network, you know, corporates from the region saying, actually, you know, can we buy these products from you and give it out to women, maybe to their own employees or maybe women in the communities around their factories. So we then pivoted from the buy one, donate one to include actually a wholesale model where we can sell to nonprofits, to factories, to employers who serve these rural communities. So our cups are still reaching the women who need it the most, but the people paying for it is someone in the middle, for example, a corporate.
Like you always have like almost this 3-way model where, you know, and then also I guess for corporates, it was also ticking their CSR goals in many ways.
Yeah, exactly. Well, right? And you know, the great thing in India is that we have CSR mandated. So corporates above a certain size, they have to give 2% of their profits. And I think Asan is really lucky in that we tick a lot of boxes. It's women's empowerment, it's health and equality, it's gender, and it's environmental sustainability. Absolutely. So, you know, when we pitch to a corporate, we almost always find a match because they want to help out.
Of course,
And then sometimes it's for the women within their own company that can benefit, or sometimes it's in a neighboring community. But actually, it's actually such an effective, low cost, but high impact intervention, which corporates always want to get on board with.
Absolutely. So when you went, you said, was it Karnataka that you were obviously donating them? Did you find that the reception across the board was very positive? Because obviously Mary, she knew you, she trusted you, she worked for you. And I can just imagine the scene. You are obviously a privileged upper class person who's, coming from London and the US, being like, hey, try this. And, going into areas that you don't go to, that you don't really see people like you. So what was that like?
So definitely we had to create a model to facilitate that same interaction I had with Mary, which was from a trusted source. I had to figure out how can that be done at scale. And definitely if I'm the one delivering the education, as you say, I grew up in Bangalore. English is my first language.
You grew up in a different environment, right? So
exactly.
That's the thing,
So the way to make it work was really to build that network of trusted sources. So my very first hire at Asan was this wonderful woman named Mamta, who I still work with, and she's our head of social impact. And she had actually been a menstrual health educator for 10 years.
Oh, amazing.
So she herself had like amazing community knowledge, and she could help make that curriculum. But then when we started reaching out to rural communities, even Mamta couldn't do the training. She had to go via local trusted sources. So that can be local nonprofit staff. It can be health workers. In India, we have health workers who we call Asha workers, primary school teachers, anyone who's like really trusted in the community. Sometimes in the panchayat, which is like the local village council, they have some women there. So we essentially identify who are those really strong influencers or ambassadors.
Ambassadors almost,
and we give them the cups first. And once they try it, like I will promise you, they will promote it. For sure.
Well, I mean, it can see from the success of your product. Was there ever a moment that you felt there was a great distance between your end user and yourself? Or has that changed over the years?
To be honest, today we now sell Asan Cups and distribute in 4 or 5 countries in East Africa and in Ghana as well. And I've never been to some of those places. So there's a huge distance between me and those women, culturally, linguistically, And people always ask me, like, haven't you been to Kenya to visit the women using the Asan Cups? Haven't you been to Rwanda? And, I'd love to go there on holiday, but there's actually no reason for me to go because the model works so well. The model is peer-to-peer learning from a trusted source, and it's working so well without me having to fly 5,000 miles or, hire people. So I think that really is the beauty of peer-to-peer learning and women trusting women. It's that it can work anywhere.
And it's that you've built such a strong foundation, and it's really just replicating that foundation wherever you go.
But it is quite incredible. Sometimes on my phone, I'll get a video. I recently got a video of a factory worker in Ghana, like proudly telling all the other factory workers, like, hey, you better use this Asan Cup. And I was like, that is amazing. It's so, so cool. And I obviously see our user materials being translated into I think Swahili, the language of Rwanda, all of these different local languages that obviously I don't speak. Recently we did Arabic, and I just look at the user materials and I'm like, that is cool.
It's amazing.
Like that's really cool.
Do you ever get imposter syndrome? That you're like, what?
I don't love the phrase imposter syndrome because, I built this and
I love that.
I made it what it is. But I think it's really, obviously as a founder, you always think there's so much further I have to go to achieve what I want. We've given out 150,000 Asan Cups, but my aim is like 5 million in the next 5 years. So obviously I'm very far from my goal. But then when these small things happen, like these successes of seeing people in faraway countries have amazing reception to your product, I think it's just a little reminder that like, okay, obviously I haven't, met the end goal, but like I'm on my way and I'm doing well.
But the journey you're on, and these are such great motivators to carry on, right? So to keep these all with you when you're feeling a bit down, you can read through them. Are you one of those founders?
Oh my God, absolutely.
Oh, that's amazing. So so we're still in like your mid-20s, right, while you're building this. So you're building the team across UK and India simultaneously in your mid-20s on limited funds with a product that's actually never really existed before in the areas that you're serving. What broke first?
There's so many things, I think, along the way, so many challenges that we've had. I think one of the first, quite scary things was when people started to copy us. We obviously have a patent for our product, but quite quickly in India, there was a cup so Asan, actually, you would know this in Hindi, it means easy. So it's easy cup. And there was a competitor who came up that had the same design and called themselves Happy Cup. cushy cup. And they literally copied our website. They didn't even bother.
God.
They just took the same website.
Yeah.
You know, a knockoff product that was really like poor quality, but it was red and it looked similar.
Yeah.
So, you know, people didn't really know the difference. And I think suddenly starting to see people, you know, you've put in all of this hard graft and then someone just buys something off Alibaba and tries to replicate it in the same way. That was probably a bit scary at first. And, you know, I think the really good thing is that I've been lucky to have amazing mentors along the way from my Harvard network. In Bangalore, I have this amazing mentor, Narayan Ramachandran, who's kind of like built the business with me. And he was like the first person I went to when we had these IP issues.
Yeah.
So I think it's, you know, we've had a lot of scares, but just as a solo founder, having the right people to reach out to for advice. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And what I'd be interested to move into now is just the product and the responsibility. Like you say, you were like a solo founder, solo female founder. You know, you're selling a product that goes inside someone's body. You know, what's the conversation that people didn't have with you? Or what's the conversation that you wish people had with you at starting, or your mentors had given you advice on? Yeah,
so it's really interesting you asked that question because there's so little regulation and awareness around what goes into period products here in the UK and globally. From the start, I knew that I wanted this to be the highest possible quality, and I looked up the regulations and decided that our company should go for ISO 13485, which is actually medical device certification, which is, you know, a huge amount of work and paperwork and quality testing. But I think what I didn't know is how little consumers understand about the importance of these certifications. So, you know, you can say to someone like, you should pick ISO 13485 products, but it sounds so technical, right?
Yeah. As in you've lost me at ISO.
Right. And as women, we actually have no idea what goes into pads and tampons.
It's true. Yeah.
So in the UK, for example, there is no specific regulation that looks after period products. You can pretty much put anything in a period product and sell it. And the worst part is you don't have to put the ingredients on the back of pack. Like when you go to Sainsbury's and you look at, you know, food, you can see everything that goes into it. You put a tampon inside you, but when you look at a tampon, it doesn't say the ingredients. And tampons actually contain plastics, pesticides, perfumes. You know, there was a study that found heavy metals, lead. And so having gone for this high level of medical certification, our product is just made from one material, which is medical grade silicone. But I think what I really struggle with is that it's so hard to have that conversation with consumers because people don't even know the rubbish that goes into pads and tampons
at the moment.
And how important it is to know the ingredients.
Yeah. Some people may say that a reusable cup is a middle-class solution to a working-class problem. How do you combat that kind of criticism?
So I would really flip it on its head. You know, a reusable period cup lasts for 10 years. You know, it's going to cost you the same as 3 or 4 months worth of pads, and it's going to last you a decade. Yeah. So I'd say it's the best possible solution for anyone from any class. But more importantly, I think what makes Asan really different is that we don't distinguish based on your background, whether you're a successful lawyer from London or New York, or you're a tipika in Malawi, or you're just a girl in South India who needs to get to school. We will give you access to the same high quality period product because periods are universal and we all have them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love, and I'm sure you've had lots of stories that you've spoken about before, but I'd love to know, is there one story that's really stuck with you of someone who's used the Asan Cup, a woman, and it's really changed their life?
Oh, there have been so many.
Give me one story.
Yeah.
Give me one story that comes to mind. I'm sure there's been tons.
There have been so many. But we were doing this focus group in Karnataka with women. And, you know, I had gone in kind of like as an outsider to listen in.
Yeah.
And the facilitator from the village was asking all of these women, what's your favorite thing about the Asan Cup? And we were thinking they would say like, I'm saving money, or, you know, I'm able to go to work. And this one woman was like, I no longer have to wear underwear. and it turns out that in this village, no one ever wore underwear because they wear these saris and they never needed underwear. And it was only when plastic pads were introduced that they actually had to buy underwear because they needed something to stick the pad on.
So if they didn't wear underwear, how did they...
They were just using cloth. Like they were just, I guess, wrapping cloth on their period. Yeah. And then people introduced plastic pads and then they had to go out and buy underwear. So anyway, this woman, and she was like a local panchayat leader, a local village council leader. She was like, I literally will never buy underwear again because I just use my Asan Cup and I don't need anything else.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, yeah, I guess they can go back to the old days. I'd love to bring the conversation now into the UK because obviously you work and serve the communities in the UK as well. So in my research, I was shocked at this, and I feel like I should know this being in the charity space, but I didn't. So UK is one of the wealthiest countries in the world. And when I was reading through some of the research, an ActionAid 2023 poll found that period poverty had risen from 12% to 28% in a single year. I was shocked. Like literally, I was like, what? How did I, what is going on? Do you think in the UK there's a political will existing to solve this problem? Because I can't believe it. Like 2020, that's not that long ago. Like I cannot believe that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's very much linked to COVID and the cost of living crisis, I think. So during COVID, obviously supply chains were hugely disrupted. So people couldn't, supermarkets were suddenly out of products, prices were going up. If you used to get your pads at school and you're no longer going to school, then where are you going to get your pads? And similarly with the cost of living and inflation, the cost of period products has really gone up. In terms of political will, I think the sad truth is that this is still a taboo topic. So it isn't top of mind. I recently did a pitch at a social impact venue in London where I went up and I talked about how great period cups could be as a solution in the UK. And multiple people came up to me and said, oh, we're amazed you went on stage and talked about periods like that. And that's at a social impact venue in the UK. So it's crazy how little we still want to talk about this subject. And if you can't talk about it, then there's no way you're going to tackle it head on. And it's always just going to be this niche group of women calling for change. Yeah,
that they kind of just skirt around the topic, but they don't really. And it kind of leads me on to my next question. So do you think that if men menstruated, we'd still be having this conversation?
If men menstruated, there would be tampons, pads, cups, and period underwear in every single bathroom stall, and they would be free forever, and there would be free menstrual leave, and they would be, shouting about it from the rooftops, I can assure you.
Yeah, good. I mean, and that's so sad. That is so sad. And I think for me, it's like 2023, that's when the poll is from, right? Like I cannot get my head around it, So was there at any point in the last almost decade now that you've been building this, what was one of your most lowest points, do you think?
So there are so many low points as a founder. But I think probably the first year or two when we were very early revenue and we didn't have traction, where I found rejection the hardest. I think as a founder, you face rejection every day, sometimes multiple times a day, because you're always applying for things that you don't get. But before we had that early traction and I was new, I took every rejection as this huge source of failure. If we got one bad Amazon review, it would just ruin my day. And I would think, oh God, how am I going to overcome this? If we got one hater on the internet. And the thing about being a founder is you face so much rejection quite quickly. And especially if you grow and then you're serving thousands of customers and then tens of thousands of customers, you start facing so much, positivity and negativity that you kind of just learn to take it in your stride. And the kind of things that, the rejection I get today, it's so much bigger than what I got 5 years ago, but I just move on so much more quickly.
You can handle it a bit better.
Yeah.
And on that founder journey, especially as a solo founder, what did that cost you in terms of your relationships or your personal life almost? Because I don't think it was a 9 to 5, right?
Yeah. So again, I think in the first few years, the first 2 years probably, I was incredibly annoying to my husband and my family because I wouldn't shut up. Literally, I think in the evenings, this was so on my mind. If a small win or a small loss, it was like word vomit. I could not stop talking about it. And I think, kudos to my husband that he stuck with me through it, and to my family because I might have been insufferable. But again, over time, it actually does become a little bit more like a normal job. Once you start to build out a team, you're not doing it alone. You've been through pretty much all the highs and lows before. You really learn to compartmentalize so much better.
And where would you say you are now as a founder? Because obviously, like you said, your goal is to reach 5 million cups by
2030.
2030, and we're at 150,000 at the moment. So where are you, say, sitting emotionally or mentally now as a founder?
I think I'm really on that scale journey, which is quite scary now, right? Because I've proven the concept. I've proven that there's a market for the product. But it's sort of like, I'm over the first hump, which is the proof of concept. But now I have to prove that this can go really, really big, which is quite scary still.
Yeah. But exciting.
It's exciting. And I think what's really nice now is that I have the momentum where I have the team behind me, the mentors behind me, the supporters, the investors. So I don't feel like Asan is just me now.
Just you,
I feel like it's an army of people trying to do it together.
This is incredible. So we talked about earlier where you had 4 rounds of this cup, right? So you went back and forth with user feedback, 4 rounds of testing before you got the right design. How did you know when it was time to stop the iterations and say, right, this is the cup?
That was very much, user feedback, like listening very much to our users and being like, this is as good as it can be. People ask us now, would you make changes to the cup? And actually, no, because we did such a good product development process that it is the best that it can be. But in terms of like advice to anyone else starting out, I would just say, please focus on a real problem. Like there are so many problems in this world that need solving. When I was designing the Asan Cup as a student at Harvard, there was someone next to me in the innovation lab, and he was making temperature sensing headphones. Like you put a headphone in and it tells you your temperature. I mean, you could easily use a thermometer for that. So I have no idea why he was building that. But I think he was just trying to find the next trend, right?
Yeah.
And, similarly with menstrual cups, there are people trying to put, sensors in and all kinds of different technology in. And sometimes, if half the women on the planet don't have access to period products, why are we trying to, solve a problem for the 0.001% that might want a temperature sensing headphone?
Yeah.
So just
I'm guessing those didn't launch, did they? But I've not seen them.
But really my advice is like focus on a real problem, please. Yeah.
And what would you say you know now about running a social enterprise that you may not have known just when you first started?
I'd say just about running any organization, it's so much harder than it looks.
Yeah.
When you start out, you just think like, I'm going to be a millionaire and I'm also going to solve period poverty. And it's all just going to happen like this.
Yeah.
And it's really like so much harder than it looks. It takes a lot of really hard work, a lot of rejection and a lot of failure. But I think I have learned that there is a happy middle between profit and social impact, and that they can go hand in hand. And I do feel quite passionately about the fact that can work.
Yeah. And as we wrap up, we started this conversation with Mary, and, she was kind of the start of this whole journey for you. If she watched this interview today, what would you want to say to her?
Thank you for being the first advocate and Asan Cup user and giving such honest feedback, because it was that one interaction that has now led to 150,000 women who did not have access to period care being able to go to school and work on periods.
It's incredible. And ironically, Asan means easy, but none of this has been easy for you. Why did you pick Asan as a name?
I really, really wanted to pick an Indian name.
Yeah.
There are so many products from the world that have come to India. Colgate toothpaste or, just any product you think of, like Coca-Cola, right? And when I wanted to make a product for Indian women and then take it global, I didn't feel the need to translate it, right? Like Colgate didn't change their name to go to India.
Oh, I love
so
that.
why can't the Asan Cup work in the US? Why can't the Asan Cup work in the US or the UK or any other country?
Yeah. Oh, it's incredible. I love that. I didn't realize that was a story. Because I remember when we first met, when I first saw your product, I was like, does she mean easy Asan? Is she saying Asan or is it something else? Because I couldn't work out, because it's not normal, right? Everything gets translated for the Western population. So I love that. Amazing. That's the end of my questions for the interview. And now I'm going to go into quick fire round.
Yes, sure.
So quick fire, first thing that comes to your mind. Yeah, ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Dosa or idli?
Dosa.
Oh, I love dosa. Yeah, I'm still yet to go to South India and try an actual South Indian dosa, but we've got some good options there.
No, it's life-changing. You have to have the real thing, or I'll make it for you.
Oh, okay, fine. Yeah. Filter coffee or chai?
Filter coffee, always.
Sambar or rasam?
Rasam.
Rice or roti?
Oh, I love both, but I grew up a rice eater.
Yeah, I thought so. Bangalore or London?
Oh my God, I will never be able to answer that question.
No. Rickshaw or Uber?
Ooh, Rickshaw.
Cricket or basketball?
Basketball.
Cambridge or Harvard, which made you?
Oh, God. Oh, God. I'll take Cambridge because we're in the UK. Yeah.
Investor meeting or village visit?
Ooh, village visit.
Mission or money?
Mission.
Move fast or get it right?
Get it right.
Fitting in or standing out?
Standing out, always.
And then period poverty, solvable in our lifetime?
100%.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
That
was so fun.
If this conversation resonated with you and made you think, I'd really appreciate it if you could share it. That's how these stories travel. And if you want to know more about the Asan Cup and what Ira is building and why it matters, you'll find all the details in the link below. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.